from the independent filmmakers, I heard, you know, two camps. Mostly people being very positive about it and thinking that this was, yay, finally some legitimate, you know, productions are coming in and bringing awareness to what Kickstarter is. I have to say that before I came here, suddenly Kickstarter's being written about on all these business marketing blogs, which I didn't realize really hadn't happened before. So it almost is, to me, it's reaching out this mainstream kind of audience, because Kickstarter does only fund creative projects. So it mainly was known, you know, in the creative industries. So it hadn't occurred to me too much that people outside of that weren't as aware. I was asked too recently, did I think that we've reached saturation? You know, have we hit everybody? We've reached the pinnacle. I was like, oh, no, man. Most people on the street don't even know what Kickstarter is. So we're far from being saturated. Yes, as filmmakers, we feel very saturated. You have tons of campaigns going on and people asking you for money. But if you climb outside of the bubble to the average Joe, they do not know what Kickstarter or crowdfunding, the term crowdfunding, even means. So I don't think that we're coming to this period where people will stop giving because they're tapped out. You know, there's too much going on. Then there's the other camp that these projects are coming in and stealing money from us. You know, this was supposed to be for the small guy, the startup guy who doesn't have any other access to capital, not these big guys who can go out and snap their fingers. I don't think there's a limited amount of funds. I think that tons of charities in the world, not to say that Kickstarter is a charity, but tons of nonprofit organizations exist in the world, and they all collect money from the same group of people. And nobody's ever said, we shouldn't have a heart association because we already have a cancer association and we already have a women's group, so, you know, that kind of thing. There's always room for other organizations that are raising donations, and so this is no different from that. Do I think that it's going to be possible for every filmmaker to raise $3 or $4 million the way Veronica Mars? Not right now. No, it depends on how long have you been cultivating an audience. You know, they had access to broadcast. You know, they were a network show. They were only on for 3 years. They got canceled because they didn't have high enough ratings. The ratings were not big enough to satisfy the network, but certainly big enough to satisfy an audience that could help raise $4 million. So I think that the downside of this is how it's going to change the way creators think about investors. Because I think that a lot of times I hear people still say, this is investing, crowd investing. No, investing is you get repaid with interest or some, you know, where you're making money on the money you put in. This is donation. This is very freeing to a creator because they don't have to concern paying back an investor and protecting that investor's money. Ideally, whatever they went out to the crowd to say they wanted to do, they stay true to that. They don't put it in their pocket and go on vacation. You know, that would be the last time they would be doing this. But, you know, ideally, or that they don't radically change and go off from what they said they were going to make, that they do make that. But I don't understand where the thought of it's more legitimate for an artist to be deeply in debt than it is for them to be debt-free. That you know, I've been hearing that it's not as legitimate. It's detrimental for them to lock out these corporations and these investment firms and things like that. That's just astounding to me, you know, that we encourage people to be in debt more than we encourage them to have freedom. So I think that something like Kickstarter is amazing for that. Where does it lock people out? Banks, you know, that used to loan money and get interest off of these loans. Their living is made from loaning money out. And so if you're not loaning, you're donating, they're kicked out of this equation. My thought, banks have lots of places to go to get money. That the entertainment industry is not their only outlet. So I'm not too fearful that they're gonna all go belly up and you know, not be able to find another place to invest money and loan out money. But I think that for creators, this is a huge, huge change, huge opportunity. But it doesn't happen if you aren't willing to cultivate some kind of audience. You know, Rob Thomas, I wouldn't say cultivated an audience, but he has a brand that has an audience, you know, and they kind of cultivate themselves. They have fan sites and they still get together, whether anybody from the show is participating or not. They have connection to each other around this show. Not every show has that, not every film has that, but it's possible to stoke it. It is possible to grow that if you're willing to do it. And the longer you're doing it, the longer you're cultivating, the more likely you'll be able to raise more money. And we've seen independent filmmakers raising a couple $100,000, you know, on these sites. That's nothing to sneeze at. You know, that's a pretty good start. If not, you know, your whole budget can be raised, and not have to do repayment on that is really amazing, a really good opportunity.